just kind of give a small description of it.
Oh, okay.
He tells us what exactly
man.
it is, because it's more than
What is it?
than his hair too. It's a child.
A business, like, people really have to understand, like, a business is not equivalent necessarily in the same way, but it's the same amount of time, effort, and responsibility as, you know, some things that you would equate in your personal life with, you know, having a child or an equal responsibility of some sort. So yeah, all natural hair care and skincare. I just started making one product for myself, and after I shared it with some folks and took it to my hair salon and to get my hair done, people were like, I need some of this. Like, when are you making more? Bring some more jars when you come. And I was just like, okay.
Let's talk about that, like how the origination of it, because like this is something that you were just doing for yourself. So like, was it?
And not just for fun.
Yeah.
It was like.
And just for fun, you said. Not just for fun.
So I had one. My hair is very thick. You know, it used to be pretty dry, so it was difficult to manage. So when I went natural, it was like, it was a process, you know, and it takes time to figure out for everyone. I think, you know, what you're going to use, what works best, and understanding what you need, because I feel like we grew up using like the same generic products, regardless of whether, you know, your hair type or whatever, not even knowing those kinds of things. So yeah, I tried all the products. Like, I did curl box and tried samples and stuff and bought, you know, all these different products, and it was like, okay, this stuff doesn't work. If it does work, it's for like an hour, and then I'm a hot mess on my way back home, you know, from work at the end of the day. And so then I was just like, and then looking at the ingredients of a lot of products that claim to be for natural hair as well, were not natural themselves. Water, some other stuff, some chemicals, and a bunch of stuff you can't pronounce. So, you know, then I was like, all right, so let me go the opposite direction and just use raw ingredients. And I was using, you know, the raw shea and doing all these things. But even shea butter was like super thick, you know, it was clogging my pores on my skin. I was getting like patches of, you know, dry skin and things like that. And then it didn't really absorb into my hair either. So then I started using different ingredients, different butters, different oils, mixing different things. And over the course of time, it was just like, it took maybe about 6 months or so before I found the right combination and balance for myself.
And what year is this? Or what?
Oh man. 2014.
Okay.
So then I was just like, I just had my big tub. I was like, okay, this works for me.
Yeah.
So then I would take my tub with me when I would get my hair twisted, and you know, the sisters at the braiding shop, they're like, well, what is this? This is nice. Where'd you get this from? And I'm like, I made it. And they're like, what? Can you bring some for me next time? I'm like, sure. How much do you want? You know what I mean? And then I would make small batches, maybe a dozen or two jars at a time, and take it with me to go get my hair done. And then the customers in the salon wanted to try it and started to buy it. And I would sell out the batches that I made while I was getting my hair done. And I was like, well, this was easy.
But at this point in the journey, and this is sort of still the beginning of it, are you...
This wasn't a business. It still
wasn't
a business.
So this wasn't this
no,
was... You know,
no, I did not wake up one day like, I'm going to start baking hair.
Right.
It was like people were calling like, yo, I need more hair crack. You still got something? And I'm like, what? That butter you gave me is crack. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I'll think of some next week. I'll put you down on the list. And it started getting extra weird. People trying to meet me at my house and meet me after work to pick up jars, and I was just like, all right, this is.
Hence the name hair crack.
Right.
So was that something that just kind of came about?
It was a very crackish response, and I was just like, wait. So I set up a website, and you know, people started ordering from there, and I started selling locally at pop-up shops and flea markets, and the business came.
For me, it's like hearing Nell's journey of becoming a businesswoman. It just sounds, what resonated with me is that you did not sort of start this business in a traditional way. You know, in it's sort of like the societal norms of starting a business. It's just like, this sounds to me like it's like an unconventional. It was one of those things where It was you just try things for yourself, and then you start sort of getting some feedback from people, and people start to sort of like believe and encourage you to really start off this business. So
here's the thing, right?
Well, before you answer that, what I want to know is, did you have a desire to turn this into a business?
So I've always been entrepreneurial in spirit in general. Like this is not my first business. I started making jewelry when I was like 15, and then I started consulting and writing and doing freelance PR work in my 20s. So really, this is my third business, which you have to fail a couple times before you get it right. So now I was lucky that I started early and started to fail upwards pretty early. But the thing is that a lot of times, I mean, the best businesses are started in that unconventional sense, and it's not really unconventional because the root is still identifying a problem and finding a solution, right? Because, and then most of those things in the best businesses come from things that most people experience on a regular basis, right? So waking up one day and being like, okay, I want to start a business, and then trying to force whatever that idea is, or struggling to find something or whatever, is usually counterproductive, right? And not necessarily going to result in what you might hope for. Because then you're just like scrambling to find something and make it fit into what you want it to be, versus something coming to you and you identifying that need and being like, oh, cool, I could really, like, people are really interested in the solution that I've created for this. So
I think what's dope about Mel's is that you were meeting your need. Like, this is unmet need that you had, and then you learned that a lot of other people also have this need too. And so I'm sure that made it, as far as when you were moving it forward, the fact that you were part of your targeted group, right? Targeted customer.
And that's what's important, because I didn't have to do much research. People are like, what's your market research? Like, what is what's your proof of concept? I'm like, I'm literally sitting in a salon not doing any work and selling products. Proof of concept. Like, you know what I mean?
Take us through what it looks like. So we started with the hair crack. So like what?
It's fine. My mouth is
Oh, wait. So it's called hair crack?
Say hair crack, right?
Like, okay, gotcha. Wait, just sorry to interrupt.
On the label.
So what inspired that kind of name? Is it because it's so good at itself?
That's what my customers call it.
Gotcha.
When I created the label and didn't have hair crack on it, it was just like whatever the name was at that time, people were like, what? This is hair crack. Like, why is that not on the label? So my customers named the product and required the name of the product to be on the label. My mom was like, no, old Asian parents crack, anything like that? Absolutely not. I was like, this wasn't my call, this was their call. And not only that, now I've realized that when people see it, the people who it's for know what it's about. You know what I mean? Like when I have like my table set up and people come up, and black women especially see hair crack, and they're like, oh girl, I gotta try this. They already know.
Right. So I want to make sure I want to do sound check so people can hear. So far, can everybody able to hear us, especially Mel? If you can't hear me, that's okay, but I want to make sure you're able to hear our guests. Can you hear us? The sound is good.
Mic check.
So we're just doing mic check right here. Oh, everything is good. Okay, so you must say everything is good. Okay, great. So we also want to engage people who are with us. So like I said, we don't want to be the one doing all the talking. So if you do have questions for males, please ask away, because we want you to be part of this conversation. All right, so ask your questions, and we want to hear from you.
Right.
All right.
And go follow Mel's other plans.
That's what's the tag?
There's a fan sound.
It might be the AC right here.
That might be your mic.
Okay. But Aki,
You need that AC, so
we do need the AC.
but
But
So,
It's a manager for, I'm sure it's.
oh, sorry. So, somebody asked, how long have you been in your business?
So I officially incorporated in 2017.
Okay.
Prior to that, the whole hobby to business journey was like about 2 years. So I really started selling products in the summer of 2015.
What was that turning point from, all right, this is something that I'm using for myself, I got friends, family, people asking me for this, to, okay, I'm gonna turn this into a business. Was it when you incorporated it in 2017, were you already in that mindset before that?
So what happened was, and I usually tell people this, when you have a business, it'll tell you that, right? Because at first it was just like me going around selling products and these things, but then things started to happen where, like me selling out products, when I would go to the event, and then it would be like, getting signals of, okay, the small batches that I'm making, now I have to start making, triple, quadruple batches, because I'm running out sooner than usual. So sales picking up, interest from other people picking up, potential store, salon partners, and just really getting that kind of interest and validation in a way. And then seeing the potential for it, because then at that point there were, a few Black-owned beauty brands that were really taking off and, making these major moves, getting major investors or going public or whatever the case may be. So it's always been beauty was an industry that people slept on for a while and didn't really see the potential for a high return, and everybody was very tech business and tech real estate and all that stuff are the things that people see as a definite, source of income or a business that could possibly take off. But beauty is up there as well, because we might not think about it, but we use personal care products every day. Hopefully most of us we wash every day, we moisturize every day, we use all kinds of personal hygiene products. So all of those things are things that you use every day and that you don't ever want to run out of. So you usually buy multiple at a time. So you have to think of those things, like what is the most used things and what are the practical things that you use in your everyday life. Those are viable businesses as well.
Definitely. And, to your point, these last 6-7 years, it really seems like these hair care and the natural hair movement has really blown up. Yeah. It sounds like you were at the would you say you were sort of close to the beginning of that as far as when you or you?
No, because there were already a lot of products and stuff out, but it was still the focus on the quality and the ingredients and things like that, because they're slapping all these natural ingredient buzzwords on the front and marketing in a certain way and marketing the Black women in a certain way. But that doesn't mean that their ingredients were taking our health into account, or the composition of our hair texture into account. So I feel like within the past few years, maybe the past 5 years, there's been more of a concentration on providing cleaner beauty products. But prior to that, it was just whatever, we're gonna put some crap in a bottle, sell it to you, we're gonna think it's great because we put a Black woman's face on the box or the bottle.
Right.
So you're gonna think that, this is good for you and that you should use it even though you should.
So
I'm definitely, wasn't at the beginning of it, but I feel like I was more so, not one of the first people, but really focused on doing something differently than, making water good, putting it in a jar, charging you $30 for it.
Right.
I'm like, I don't like water-based products. Water evaporates and then you're just left with whatever else is on the ingredient list, and most of that is crap.
Right.
When you look at the ingredient list of, some products, curly puddings and custards and goos and whatever. So I was just like, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing. I want to focus on using actual real ingredients that grow in nature, sourced in nature.
And are there any specific ingredients that are pretty, in all your products, or like
Aloe, mango butter.
Mango butter.
I use shea in some products, not all products, and nut butters are not shea based.
Okay.
Essential oils.
Yeah.
I like neem oil a lot. It smells horrible.
Okay.
But it's really good for, itchy, dry skin. So eczema, psoriasis, these things. It's like most of what is prescribed for those things are steroid-based creams and things like that. And it's like, there are natural ingredients that can help with these things and eventually eliminate them, not just suppress them or, something that you have to use for the rest of your life to make sure that you don't get these breakdowns and things. So it's all about, like, there's nothing new under the sun, right? So whatever ailments arise in the body should be healable with nature.
So we got a couple questions on the chat, and thanks for the questions. This first question here, and I think this kind of speaks to the as you think about new products or add on to your different lines. So nobody asked how you think about the different needs that different people have. And I think this is a good question because she said I think of Shea Moisture, for example, which caught a lot of flack for changing formulas. And interestingly enough, I was actually looking for some black soap the other day, and I was looking at Shea Moisture's got a black soap. I was looking at the reviews, and I was seeing some of what she's getting at right here, which is the ingredients and how they changed formulas. So for you, as you've expanded from hair crack to other products, and we'd like to hear what some of those other products are and who they serve. But how have you thought about that in terms of making sure you're fitting the needs of different customer segments?
The funny thing is that I guess my strategy has always been to be very person to person, like going to events and vending. People tell me what they need. Like the request that I got, well, what you got for eczema? And that's why I created the neem soother butter, because I got so many questions or requests about what to do for itchy, dry skin, psoriasis, eczema, cradle cap, all these things. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna spend some time, do some research, understand these conditions and what causes them, and do my research on, ingredients that could counteract those issues. So it's a process, and I'm not one to, part of, the brand over time has become minimalism to a degree, right? So I'm not trying to create a different line every year, every 6 months, and just slap on a price line. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not just gonna create a whole bunch of products for no reason, because my products work.
Yeah.
They're still selling to this day, you know what I'm saying? And I feel like you don't have to keep doing that and do these things for the sake of being trendy. If what you have actually works, honestly. And then just looking at different hair types, the goal became with the concept of the minimalism piece of like, I don't understand why we've been socialized in a certain way to use products the way we do, or that men's products have to be in a blue bottle and smell like this, and women's products are super girly, and it's just like, we all need the same stuff to wash our asses. We're on IG Live, right? And like, we have like the same type of skin or whatever. Like, I don't want my stuff to be overly fragrant, and synthetic fragrance is a whole nother slippery slope in and of itself. So it's just like, well, why do we need 3 different products just to cleanse our hair, or what I mean? Why are there 5 million types of conditioners, and a lot of them don't really work. So it's just like, what can I create that's going to be usable for a majority of people? Because a family shouldn't have to have separate products for the parents, separate products for the kids. If it's a natural product and it's going to be healthy for your body, it should be usable by everyone.
Yeah. So we have another question from Nomi about investing in growth for the company. So I guess the first question would be, are you taking investor money for
Hell yes.
other plans? and so with that said,
bring me here.
With that said, how do you think about pricing for growth versus trying to keep your base happy with the affordability of it?
Yeah.
When it comes to what investors are looking for the return on.
Right. So that's why it's important to be conscious and strategic about the type of investment you take on, because whoever invests in my company has to be aligned with my intentions and my goals, because that was one of my main issues as well when I first started my product search and trying different natural hair, oriented products. I would get a little 2-ounce jar for like $30. I can't even do my whole head with this. Like, why is it so expensive? You know what I mean? And it's just like, and that's where a lot of people end up feeling either bad about themselves, or it's like you're already having a struggle finding something that works. And then if you do find something that works, you can't afford to get it on a regular basis. You know what I mean? So I've spent a majority of my life, growing up with not much, and that's not a good feeling, for anyone to have. And it shouldn't be out of reach for you to just be able to take care of your skin and hair in a healthy manner.
Right. To me, like what Mel's saying and what sort of like stick with me, this idea of self-care, So we still going through this pandemic, this COVID. Talk to us about COVID and how did it impact your business, and what are you doing to really navigate through this crazy time?
Oh man. So it's interesting because there has been an effect, but then all of this kind of pandemic relief response type of stuff, some of it has been good. Because all this money has appeared out of nowhere, like all this relief dollars, and it's like, where was this money at before? When businesses were applying for loans and looking for investors and doing all this
stimulus check?
Listen, money appeared out of nowhere. Guess what? Some money fell out of the some money fell out of the sky, right into my lap too. Some other.
I said starting to feel like money's growing on trees now.
Listen. So. In March and April, it was weird because my online sales tripled. So that was cool. And then people were like, toilet paper and butter. I'm like, okay, great. People are ordering butter too. Great. Yeah. So, but then events, just there are no events, right? So all the expos that I was planning on going to, which are my big chunks of revenue usually, because it's like, okay, online sales is different, it ebbs and flows every day, weekly, monthly. Yeah. But at an event, if a certain amount of people are going to be there, like 10,000, 20,000 people, you're making a certain amount of bread in one day. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So there is none of this waiting business. So the expo game is, and then I get to meet everyone, you know what I'm saying? It's actually something that I enjoy. Some people are very introverted and don't want to talk to people and will just pop up in front of the camera and dip and not do meet and greets and all that. But that is something that's major to me. Is most of the people who buy my products, I've met them before. You know what I mean? So, and it means something to them that I'm like, I'm gonna keep supporting her business because I know how she's grinding. She came to my city, she's going to all these other places, she's doing it. So I think it's really important to establishing a connection with your customers. So that was really hard, and it had been I haven't worn this T-shirt in that long. I had to wear my uniform that long because I haven't been going to events to sell, So that was a really hard thing and a hard chunk and change that was lost because there were a lot of expos that I was planning to do in the spring and summer. But then all the other things I do, there were some pros, okay, it's increased here, but then this completely decreased. So there's been a lot of coaster reaction in time where I was
So what's been your mentality with going forward during this time? Because knowing that we're in this pandemic, we're gonna be in this pandemic for the time being, and but at the same time, you look at those butter blends, and you talk about it's a hair care company, might be a little different than a tech company, but it's also tech enabled too, right? Because you sell it online, so you have that.
like I saw real text.
So there's that aspect of it too, where you're able to thrive in ways during a pandemic. You mentioned that you got sales that tripled, during that time, but you lost revenue in other places.
Right.
So looking forward in the coming years and knowing what we're going through right now, has that changed your strategy? How have you been thinking about going forward?
So yeah, basically I'm always about recession proofing everything. Right? And that's why I like beauty as well, because people might be broke, but they still need to look good when they go to work. They still need to do certain things, so people are still gonna buy. Women are still buying their makeup. They're still buying, maybe not as much, but people are still upkeeping themselves even during times of financial crisis. Maybe not as much as before. So for me, it's been like, okay, and here's another thing. I'm just gonna throw that out there for people who are trying to get into business, because I get questioned a lot, and people will question you, well, why are you doing that like that? And why are you doing that like that? And so I sounded like a crazy person when I was like, well, I got a website, I got an Etsy store, I got an Amazon store, and all this stuff. I had Shopify for a little bit, but I got rid of that. And people were like, well, why are you doing all that? Why do you have so many things? I'm like, guess what? Shopify was down for like 2 days sometime last year. And if your whole website is backed by Shopify, I was seeing crazy, posts on Instagram from businesses like, email us to place an order, our store's down, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, that is a shit show. Okay? And I'm sitting here like, that Shopify store might be down, but the other 3 are still perfectly active. You know what I'm saying? And then especially, people need to don't understand. If they don't understand what you do, they can't give you advice on it. Like, it's almost irrelevant what they have to say. Like, when you have a website, you have to drive traffic to that website. It's your responsibility to do so. That's what social media is all about, is basically driving traffic to people's websites, to businesses' websites, right? But Etsy, I don't do a damn thing on Etsy. I don't interact with people, I don't like people's stuff or whatever, and I would still wake up with some Etsy orders. Same with Amazon. You know what I'm saying? It's different from putting yourself in a marketplace where people are searching for the stuff you make anyway, versus having your own website that you and your team are responsible for driving traffic to. And you have to be creative about whatever that is, social media, digital ads, email blasts, whatever that is. But you're responsible for making sure that you create a strategy and follow through on that, and develop all the content and whatever, versus uploading your stuff into a marketplace. People gonna find you regardless. But doing all of those things are important to having a complete, e-commerce strategy altogether. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I'm not going to do one without the other when I can easily just create a store here, leave it there, and it'll generate sales, and I'm not doing it.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? I just have to pack and ship the orders.
Let's turn our attention to so far what the people are saying.
Before we get, I saw there's a question over here. Before we get to that, I just want to say I think it's powerful what you said, because most people who are selling online, they usually have, at least from what I see, they have that one distribution channel, so they're on Shopify or they're on, SEO. But no one said that Shopify was down in a couple of days. But the fact that
DM us to place an order. I'm like, what? No, that is ridiculous.
But think of multiple distribution channels from even just like the online space, I guess.
Because for me, I had to, and what this pandemic has given me time to reframe my thinking, especially this virtual world and Zoom meetings and all this stuff, and it's just like being in a store. I'm trying to be in as many stores and on as many shelves as possible, so why wouldn't I have as many online stores as possible?
Absolutely.
It's the same thing as digital real estate. You got real estate person and digital real estate. I want to be in all the real estates.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So, it might be a little more work when you set up the store or whatever, but once it's set up, and I'm done. I just gotta check the email notification.
And I think it's just all about like flexibility, like being adaptable and trying to expose yourself to as many people as possible. Because at the end of the day, it's all about letting people know like this best product to do, and everyone should benefit from this.
And they're here.
And then, right.
So it's like understanding. That the currency is really where the attention is. Attention is going to everything.
So, Toby, I just want to make sure we turn our attention to like questions that people have for mails and comments, so that this way we engaging our followers as well.
To eat and talk. Y'all never watch me eat. It's disgusting.
So, I think this is Jay. Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were reading. All right, cool. It says, as your business grows, do you see yourself becoming more hands-off with the day-to-day running of your business?
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. I guess that's the answer.
No, finish the question though. I like to answer it.
Oh, yeah. Do you see yourself becoming more hands-off with the day-to-day running of Hair Crack?
Yes. Right now, the goal is for me to no longer make the products. So I'm working on outsourcing manufacturing right now. Because then I'm free to do whatever I need. And I can just function in a more founder manner. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the production person and the labeler and so once I can outsource manufacturing and hopefully get it also shipped by the manufacturer, and that really takes stuff off my hands. I could be a free bird if I was meant to be. The day-to-day is a lot, because, so the main thing, what's super important, right, and you have to move away from the day-to-day as a business owner, or else you're just going to get sucked in, but you have to be very clear, and I've gotten very clear about the stuff that's going to be my stuff to do and handle. All the stuff that I really hate is going to be for someone else to do, right? And you have to be very clear about what that is, because obviously I started making the products or whatever, came up with the recipes and all that stuff, but eventually I just want to have ideas and tell us like a chemist and be like, this is what I want. Let's start testing these ingredients and mixing stuff up without me actually having to do it, because it's a lot. The things that I really enjoy doing are a lot of the sales and marketing aspects. I love going to the events, talking to folks, bringing them into the table and they're trying stuff out and I'm doing hair. We do a whole thing. It's a whole hangout, when you come to my table or a booth at an event. And I really like that connective aspect, and I hope that we can return to it at some point. But the things that I'm not going to do, the paperwork that I have to do for it. The QuickBooks and the P&Ls and the forecasting and the customer service emails and dealing with USPS.
I guess that's the part that don't tell you when you're in business that you have to wear so many hats.
I have to wear all the hats, right? Because imagine and not only wear all the hats, but it's really about just continuing, right? Because there are some days I was just like, I don't know if we can move beyond this. Like my signature fragrance was discontinued a couple of years ago. My supplier, I was like, my signature fragrance, what makes hair crack smell like hair crack? No longer available. That was a hard day. I was like,
actually,
what am I gonna do?
Can you stress that for us, Mel? Because it's just been amazing to hear your experience. For me, just as a black man and just as a black woman being in business, talk to us about that struggle that you encountered and
everything
what
has been a struggle.
So talk to us about that and what would your advice be for other?
You gotta be resilient as hell. You gotta be resilient and really focused on what the end goal is. Because for me, climbing the corporate ladder was never in my plans. I started my first business at 15. I was always like, I'm gonna make stuff happen on my own. You know what I'm saying?
15 years old.
Yeah. up. And that business started the exact same way. I was just like, well, I don't like all this jewelry that I'm buying in H&M and all these stores. It looks like all the stuff that everybody else has. I want to just start making my own stuff. And I started going to craft stores, making stuff, wearing it to school, and people were like, where'd you get that from? I made it. Can you make me one? And I was running a business on school property. I got shot down. My principal calls me one day like,
I didn't mean to cut you off because you're saying so many great things, but at 15, you decide to just take ownership of like creating your own
I'm a crazy
thing.
person.
So
I was going to events, selling products at 15.
how do you get that mindset at age 15?
I have two very enterprising parents, you know, who both had their own businesses at certain time periods, but they didn't have all of the knowledge that they needed to make those businesses sustainable and to grow, to become scalable. So I learned the foundational pieces very early. My mom's a beautician, my father owned a beauty supply store. Ended up making products. Crazy. Didn't see that one coming like at all. But
and what was Mel's the first business you did that was in that industry or in that realm? It's interesting how, you know, even without thinking about it, like what you gravitate towards is so impacted by how it's so impacted by what you see growing up. You know?
My mom's like, well, she used to make products, my grandma used to make products, and it's just like, and it's not something that it was like a passed down kind of thing, it's just like something that has been part of who we are. But anyway, I digress. It takes a lot of resilience just because even when you get to become successful and you get to a point where people are interested in your business and you're talking to investors and all that, not everybody that you meet or talk to is going to see the value in what you're providing. So, you know, a lot of people say that, a lot of founders say that they hear 100 no's before they hear that yes. But if you're somebody who would cry after the first 2 no's and then just run home and quit, clearly you're not built for that. You know what I mean? Like, that's something that if you're not built for it, you gotta develop it. And if it's that counter to your nature, that might not be the goal for you. You know what I mean? Because from ingredients and suppliers, changing prices or discontinuing things, to, you know, the humans. Oh man, managing humans. I've done it at jobs, right? But it's different when it's like your company and products that you create. You're very protective of that brand's identity and what you want it to look like and how you want it to be reflected. And I've come to realize not everybody thinks and works like me. You know, I'm a workaholic. That is the legal name of my company, Workaholics Brand, because that's who I am. You know what I mean? And not everybody works and functions that way, and not everyone has to. But for me, my work ethic is at a certain level that I get hit with, like other people are just half-assing, you know, whatever they're supposed to do. You know, especially not on my time. So that's been a huge struggle, you know, for people being consistent, because people be all excited, like, yeah, I want to help, and oh, it's a beauty brand, it's gonna be fun, we're gonna go to events, and we're gonna sell products, and it's just like, okay, but when we're not doing all that kind of stuff, I still need you to be like on top of the shit. For sure.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say something you touched upon was you know, the 100 no's before the yes, and that's real. I think also something
for
that
a few no's. Too bad.
I think something that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners, especially when you first started, is not realizing there are also different ways of going about funding the business too. So, because like right now, tech and VC, all that is so
annoying.
and even it's like amplified, and so like it sometimes overshadows other means. How has Mel thought about this funding, you know, in the different type of manners?
So, funding has layers and levels, right? Because you have to really establish something before you take it to anybody else, you know? And there were some conversations that I know I probably had too early, but they also help you know how to prepare. You know what I'm saying? You have to have some conversations really early on, or with people who are in this space, but that are not maybe actually pitching, so you know how how to create your pitch deck or what needs to be included in it. All the information that an investor needs to understand or, decide if they're going to invest into your business, right? So you have to have all of that stuff together, and that's a process. But firstly, you have to make sure that you've done the work, and that they call it having skin in the game, which there's some random idioms that don't make sense, but that's basically that you put your own money up. You know what I'm saying? Because there are a lot of businesses or companies, and they'll be like, we have the idea, and we're going to start pitching and try to get money to create the idea. And it's just like, well, you didn't put none of your own money up to at least create a prototype or an MVP, then why do you think anybody else would put their money up for this? You know what I'm saying? And so I put my money into buying the ingredients, the trial and error of the different combinations of products that I made, and really lost money maybe at the beginning, selling jars at a lower price and then increasing over time once, I had a big enough following and customer base that was still willing to pay for the product on the branded side and not just a blank jar that I'm handing to them with like an ingredient label on there. So you have to make sure that you put your money up and not debt. There's different layers of this because you have to be very creative but sensible about how you bootstrap, because I know people who have gone into tons of debt before they even have legitimate proof of concept. Before you even can say you have 100 customers.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's people I've talked to. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all this example.
Spill it on the table.
So I spoke to this young lady. I was referred to her through like a mutual person, and she's like, I want to start, I want to sell some skincare product, this serum for like anti-aging. And I was like, alright, cool. And she's like, yeah, so I'm about to, do the LLC and blah blah blah. And I'm like, ooh, what? From what you just told me, it seems like you don't even have the product yet. Are you going to be making the product? Well, I think I have this company that I might order it from, and they'll make things a lot easier than having to make it myself. So wait, you haven't ordered it from the company yet to test it yourself? So anyway, you don't have a product. You don't make the product. You haven't tried the product from the supplier that you think you might want to order from. But you about to file an LLC? To do what? Oh, my expenses and taxes and all. You don't have a business, man. And as soon as you filed that paperwork, you were telling the government, hey government, I have a business. And you do not. So then you're just going to make yourself responsible for filing, depending on the structure of business, quarterly sales taxes, annual taxes, all these things that you're going to be required to do, but you're not making money yet.
Right. And if you're not making money, it's not a business.
Even when you are making money, like little money, you still have to spend some more time making sure that you have something that is legit and scalable. Because you might just have a hobby. You might just have a lemonade stand. And that's not bad. But you haven't done the work to create the plan that takes us from a lemonade stand to a chain of juicers.
And I think that's a good point, because right now, us living in this pandemic, and granted, there are a lot of companies who, their business models may have been shifted or may have been impacted because of the nature of the business.
Yeah.
But then there are also a lot of businesses that just, have been exposed, or what it is. Whether it's because margins are so slim, whether it's because they don't have all their ducks in a row.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Do you know how many small or Black-owned restaurants that I've talked to or whatever that just opened up, have a really great space, good menu, all these things, but then they want to do all this stuff, but I don't have money for flyers or for digital ads, or you want to have live music, but you ain't got money to pay the dance. Where's the budget for these things? You know what I'm saying? And why didn't you think about this ahead of time before you spent all your money on the renovation of the building? You know what I mean? Maybe, because sometimes people just be like, oh, they pull up to a spot, they see the for rent sign, I was like, oh, okay, it's $2,000, I got 4, I can get this. And I'm like, no. Because if you're gonna get a commercial space in a storefront, you should have at least 6 months of rent saved on top of the moving costs that you're paying. It's on top of your equipment costs, and your marketing budget, and all these other things. It's not just like, oh, I can get the keys. It's all good.
Right.
Who's paying for the food?
Right.
Right. I think this is the purpose of our show, is to really provide knowledge for our base, especially our Black community, about what it takes to be a business individual, especially being a Black-owned business person, and like just letting people
to find success.
Right.
As a Black business owner.
Exactly.
Right.
And
not
we,
just start a business,
yeah.
Just the way they say you gotta be triple, you gotta be double, you have to be extra good or whatever to compete. Like, it's way more for Black-owned businesses. The way that people scrutinize your documents when you're applying for, loans and funding and all these things. It's like, meanwhile, look at WeWork. You can have, maybe if the skin is right and you talk the right game, millions, go blow it, go smoke it, go snort it. And it's like Black businesses that are legit, doing what they need to do, doing work in the community, doing all of these things, social impact work. We have to do all of this, but please, but please, but please. And it's so ridiculous.
Right. So, just to expand on that more, so we had the death of George Floyd, and then led to the huge protests across, not just like in America, but across the world.
Yeah.
And there was this sort of like a huge like exposure of like, let's support Black-owned businesses, right? So talk to us about that. Do you think that protests, the movement, helped expose, like, allow people to really start to pay attention to Black businesses out there, or do you think it was just a hashtag?
So I think that the protests and all of that really shows the importance of working